Hello, good evening. Welcome to Long Talks episode 5 of the podcast. My name is Jason, and as usual, I'm joined by my cohorts, Alvin and Richard. Alvin, say what's up.
Sup, peeps?
Richard, say what's up, man.
What's up, man?
So, today we're going to talk a little bit about the DCEU. For those of you that don't know what that means, we'll go into a bit of that to explain kind of what it is. But I'm guessing most of you who are watching this video have probably already seen the movie Suicide Squad, so we'll go into a bit of that. We'll go into a bit of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and the extended edition as well. And we'll talk about the future movies and where we think the whole franchise is going from here. First off, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to quickly let you guys know about something that a friend of mine, Cheryl, is involved in. She's known as Cheryl Brew. Some of you might know her from her days on the radio. She's actually got a new website up that's running at the moment called tintedblue.com. It's a really interesting venture that she's involved in at the moment. What they do is they talk about sex, they talk about relationships, they talk about love, they talk about all of the kind of things that we need, and us geeks, we need love and sex too, So there's no reason why we can't talk about these things openly and as adults. So why don't you head over to her page? Her page is tintedblue.com, and that's blue as in BLU, so no E on the end. So tintedblue.com, if you head over to there, you're guaranteed to get some good sex advice from my girl Cheryl. Cheryl, what's up? All right, guys, well, it's good to have you around again. Let's get this thing kicking off now. First of all, we wanted to talk a little bit about if there's anything that we've been watching or absorbing over the last kind of 2 weeks since we recorded. It is 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks, yeah.
Cool. So, has anybody been into anything? Rich, I know there was a few things that you wanted to chat about before we began. So, if you want to take the lead, bro, take the lead and we'll follow.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Cheryl as well. What's happening, man? Haven't seen you for years. Hope you're good. But we still chat. Anyway, yeah, well done, Cheryl. Yeah, okay. Basically, the first things first. I mean, what's the main thing that's popped up on our radar since the last time we recorded? The Luke Cage trailer. That's popped up, like not the teaser trailer, but like the proper trailer. I mean, that was something that really caught my eye, and yeah, man, I just loved it. I mean, like I'm not even gonna hug that trailer. So when I've done my piece, you've done your piece, and Alvin's done his piece, we can wax lyrical about it together if you want, because I feel a bit greedy just keeping it all to myself. That big hunk of a chocolate man on that screen, man, that's just bonkers. Also, the other thing was, did you guys hear about bloody Ocean's 8? There's meant to be like a female spin-off of the Ocean's 11 film.
Yeah, I've read about that. That's been in development for a little bit, that.
Where have I been? I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I saw. I mean, I actually don't mind it. It is what it is. Like the idea behind it. But then I saw the cast, and I saw that Rihanna's gonna be in it. And like I was like, no, like how? Like don't be greedy. Don't want to be a fireman and a policeman and a soldier. Like sing. Don't decide you want to be an actor as well. Only a few people have managed to pull it off. And like one of them being Will Smith, and like, and then quote unquote Ice Cube, but the debate for that. No, don't laugh, man. Like, so I mean, those are the two things that caught my eye this week, and obviously like my usual pickup of comic books. I got the latest issue of Black Panther, which is issue 5, and the run on that is just amazing, man. Like it's just such beautiful writing. And yeah, and I mean that's it, man. That's all I've got to report news-wise this week. Well, yeah, for this week.
Cool. Well, as far as Luke Cage is concerned, that's a whole hunk of chocolate man right there, so everybody can get peace, man. So you don't have to feel greedy about nothing. There'll be plenty left over for me, I'm sure. Yeah, I saw that official trailer too. It was really good trailer. It gave a lot more of a sense of the story, whereas I think the Comic-Con trailer was really just kind of to showcase what the character can do and kind of what they're doing aesthetically with the series. But this one had a lot more meat in it, and yeah, it was good. It was good to see like kind of the the type of characters that are going to be in it, the visual look that they've gone for, from a storytelling point of view, how they're kind of going for things, and I love the little Luke Cage Easter eggs as well. So yeah, that was very, very cool. I haven't caught up with Black Panther since issue 1, so I'm way behind on that. But that's definitely something that I need to catch up on real quick. Alf, was there anything you wanted to add, or anything that you'd noticed, or anything notable in the week?
Well, the only thing that stuck out to me was something that we all saw pretty much coming, which is that Ghostbusters, the reboot, probably isn't getting a sequel because it's made a $70 million loss.
Oh, I saw this story mentioned online as well. I mean, yeah, from what I read, from what they were saying, it's unlikely, but it's not necessarily off the table because there is other streams of income that they can factor in, like the merchandising and things like that, that haven't been accounted for yet. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that happens, isn't it? I mean, you roll the dice with a franchise like that, and it can go one of two ways. It can either be a hit or it can be a miss, as we'll, no doubt talk about when we're talking about the DCEU. It can go one of either way. So you kind of take your risks with it and hope that something profitable comes out at the other end from a studio point of view, I guess. But sorry, yeah, I was just going to go back to Richard's point. He mentioned the Ocean's 8 movie. Yeah, as Alvin said, that had been in development for quite some time. It looks like only now it's starting to pick up steam, really. But I'm still waiting for like the Expendables movie, because that's really like the kind of female driven action movie I wanted to see was the Expendables, because I remember when they were talking about that years ago. And I want to see that, I want to see that movie. What happened to that? I don't know. I guess that's anybody's kind of guess as to what's going on with that and where it's going and what they're going to do with the cast. And then I guess the part of the problem is if Ghostbusters turns out to not be profitable from the studio point of view, then as far as studio executives are going to be concerned, they're going to lose a lot of faith in anything that they see female driven, and they're going to start saying, there's no money in this kind of market, so maybe we just cut back on the projects that we're doing.
But is that true though? Because if you think about like Resident Evil, think about how many Resident Evil films they're doing. And there's a new one coming out. They've all had female leads, and that's been from time ago. So it's like, I mean, do they think it's a failure, or is it just the fact that they just need to do better projects?
Well, I think it can be. I mean, Resident Evil in some ways is really an anomaly, because although it's not quite an anomaly, because from what I understand, the Resident Evil movies don't cost a lot of money to make at all. Like they cost, in the relative scheme of big budget movies, they're very, very cheap to make. So turning a profit on something like Resident Evil isn't difficult to do. It's always difficult, but it's easier than, say, investing 170 million odd in another type of project, and then needing that film to make bank, really, to be profitable. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the quality issue, I mean, that's a whole different debate as to whether people do or don't think that the quality of the product they're putting out is good. But yeah, just purely from a kind of profit margin and a business point of view, if Ghostbusters does tank, then it may make some studios a bit reticent. Some of those, I think, are there are some that are exceptions. Like I think Marvel studios probably are going to stick with Captain Marvel. They're generally quite confident about their properties anyway. Once they decide to go ahead with them, apart from one. They tend to stick with what they're doing. So, yeah, I guess only time will tell, really, and we'll see what happens with that. But, gents, shall we get into the meat and veg of tonight's podcast, yeah?
Totally, yeah. Let's do it.
Cool. All right. So, as you all know, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, tonight we're going to be talking about the DCEU. The DCEU, for those of you that don't know, is basically a project that the movie studio Warner Brothers are working on. They own the rights to certain DC comic book characters. Now, when we say DC comic book characters, we're talking about Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman, those kind of characters that you might be familiar with. They basically own the production rights to those characters, and they've decided that is Warner Brothers have decided they are going to follow a very similar business model to what Marvel Studios have been doing. Now, Marvel Studios, you should all be familiar with by now. They're the people who are behind the Avengers, Hulk, Captain America movies. They'll be involved in a Spider-Man movie that's coming out, Black Panther, all of the kind of things that you would know over the last couple of years that have been out in cinemas have all been produced by Marvel Studios. And Marvel Studios' idea has been to take all of these properties that they own and to have the characters from each of these films intersect and turn up in each other's movies, to have one like overarching story arc that starts off with one particular film and then ends with another particular film, and so that they've got the creative freedom to kind of pursue these different angles. So for Warner Brothers, with their DC Comics properties, that's essentially what they're trying to do too. They want to kind of create a cinematic universe, so to speak, and then populate that with as many of the characters that they have available to them as possible, with a view to kind of having lots of different spin-off movies for different characters and so on and so forth. So, as I mentioned before, at the top of the show, one of the most recent entries in the DCEU was Suicide Squad. We've all seen it here, and I'm sure a few of you have been to see it as well. Gents, let's start off talking about quickly what you thought of Suicide Squad. I know, Rich, you've done a really good bite-sized review for our YouTube channel. So if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you check out our bite-sized reviews. Rich has done a couple, and they're both brilliant. But yeah, let's start off talking about Suicide Squad. So what did you think of it, guys? Alvin, we'll start with you.
I liked it, man. Like, literally, when I saw the reviews coming out saying that it was a mess and all this, and Fantastic Four was better than it, and stuff like that, I was like, nah, surely not. So I didn't go in like with low expectations. I just kind of went in going, they could be wrong possibly, because the trailers and all that, all the advertising material looked good to me. Then I went in, watched it, and I was pleased with how it went, because I'm familiar with the comics, the New 52 version. So what I saw on the screen was what the comics have been like since like 2011 when they did the New 52. So I was cool with it. It was a bit weird in places. It was them on a mission at night. They're at this point, they need to get to that point, and it's the journey along the way. Things happen, and then that's it. Yeah, there were probably like one or two things in there that I was a bit like, okay, that's a bit weak. But like the characterizations was good, the acting was good. I liked Leto's Joker. I liked the film. I'll probably end up buying it on Blu-ray as well. But no, a good all-round flick. Like I don't understand as to how you can like hate it and say it's the worst film of the year. I don't get it.
Cool. Rich, did you want to follow up on that? I know I said you did a really good bite-sized review, but if you wanted to just expand on that briefly as well, yeah, just add your thoughts in.
Yeah, I mean, I basically summed up in 60 seconds. I think it's one of those guilty pleasure films. Did we get what we were promised from the trailers? No. The first 20 minutes of the film we were, and then it kind of goes into just like just normal, just a normal run-of-the-mill action, Dirty Dozen type of formula type of film. I like Jared Leto's Joker as well. I like that I like that he brought something different. Like that's the thing about the Joker as a character. Every time he's come on screen, whether it be like from the 1960s Cesar Romero or Romeo or whatever his surname was. Sorry, no disrespect. All the way to like Heath Ledger's one, they've all come with their own little different take on him. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely the type of thing that I would not definitely. I mean, I would buy it on DVD or Blu-ray. Would I go back to the cinema to see it? I don't think I would. Am I happy I saw it in the cinema? I'm happy that I went to the cinema. If I didn't see it there, I wouldn't have been upset, really, to tell the truth. It's so far the strongest film in the DC universe for
Hell
me.
yeah.
And I personally think that. Well, like, I've got a few thoughts in where I think it fits in the universe, like franchise-wise, and what they could have done with it film-wise. We can touch upon that later on. But all in all, it was a decent movie. It's a Channel 5 film or a pop-in DVD in the background if your boys come round and it's playing in the background and you don't have to pay attention to it unless it's like a piece of action happening. It gets the job done. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Thank you, bro. For me, I mean, I was really. The more I kind of think about it, the more I came away kind of disappointed by it. There was things that I really loved about it. Most of the characters in the movie are really good. The characterizations and the performances of the actors and the way that they interact with each other, all of that is really, really strong. So there definitely is like a real chemistry between each of the characters and kind of how they work. I'm not going to get into like a full-blown review because I've written a review, you've done the bite-sized review, so I don't think we really need to get into a review kind of thing. But for me as a whole, yeah, I think it did disappoint me because I think when I think about it, the trailers kind of gave me one thing and then the movie turned out to be something else. Maybe I approached it with way too many expectations because I am a real fan of the Suicide Squad, in particular the 80s iteration by John Ostrander. His books really are quite dark, but darkly funny. And there's a real element of that kind of camaraderie between them. You know, the idea of honor amongst thieves and things like that is very prevalent in Ostrander's stuff. I haven't read too much of the New 52 stuff because I just didn't like what they did with Amanda Waller. I couldn't abide by it really because I was just like, this is not Amanda Waller. Like, the Wall should be, you know, a fucking wall. That's why she's called the Wall. She's, you know, not only is she imposing from a personality point of view, but that she's physically imposing. That said, I actually thought Viola Davis's Amanda Waller was brilliant. And you know, what she lacked in physical stature, she sure as hell made up for in the way she portrayed the character. So yeah, I was definitely not disappointed by her. And as I said, in general, for all of the characters, I really liked them. I felt it was more kind of story elements that let the movie down for me. But we'll get into that because it seems like there are reasons as to why that happened. Cool. So we all kind of know like how we feel about the movie and stuff. In terms of DCEU, I think, yeah, definitely I'd agree with the both of you in that it's obviously the best one that is out. Well, I say obviously, but then there are going to be lots of people who disagree. But for me, you know, it's for me personally, it's clearly one of the best movies that they've put out so far. So we can only hope that they go on and build on this. Now, jumping back in time a little bit, viewers, we're going to go back to where the DCEU started. So that's going to take us back to 2013 and a movie that you're probably all familiar with. It's called Man of Steel. It was directed by Zack Snyder. And it was the way in which they introduced the... You right there, Rich?
Yeah, it's Zack, my boy. Zack Snyder, that's my boy.
I thought a DC fanatic had tried to jump you in your bedroom, Jason. So yeah, Man of Steel. So that was kind of the first official entry, if you will, into the DC expanded universe in terms of their movies. Gents, I'll start with you, Rich, because yeah, I've got a lot of strong feelings about Man of Steel. Rich, what did you make of Man of Steel? Did you think it was a good jumping off point for the DCEU? And did you enjoy the movie as a whole?
Listen, don't even try those ones. You know how I feel about Man of Steel. Like, okay, listen. I'm gonna break it down to this, right? Now, I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. You know when they say that thing, you only had one job to do. All Zack Snyder, like when I heard he was making it, I just thought to myself, oh my god, like he's gonna make a film like 300, but with people that can fly. And I was like, fuck yeah, like that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna blow my mind, and then it's gonna be a good story as well. Like, because I just assumed somebody good was gonna write it. Like, and then I realized it was David. Did David Goyer write this?
Yeah,
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
he was part of the story team. Yeah.
yeah, part of the story team. He probably there's no story team if David Goyer is writing it. Let me tell you that. Like, if David Goyer is in the team, he's probably writing the whole thing himself, right? Um, and then I was like, I went to go see it in the cinema. Didn't see it in 3D because the tickets because my uncle booked it and he wears glasses. Thanks, Uncle Charles. And then we actually got to the cinema late. So we actually missed the part when the whole beginning when it's Krypton. And then got to the end of the film and walked out and was not inspired in the slightest. Like, I mean, I've watched it once from beginning to end since then, and every time when I've tried to watch it since then, I can't finish the film. Like there's certain let's call it the Zack Snyder way. He has that thing where he'll make something from X amount of time, but there'll only be particular points in that film that are worth watching. And Superman, and Man of Steel, that's probably easily the worst thing he's made for me personally. Nope, tell a lie. The next one that comes after that is worse. I was jumping the gun there, boy. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I think it missed what it missed on the two main things is the action, right? The action, and then the plausibility of bringing in this type of villain for Superman so early in his career, and then Superman pulling it off. So there was those two things, and then the main thing of what made the original Superman film, in my opinion, what is the best superhero film ever made, because from that point on, it set the standard and the formula for all superhero films to come after that, is that Man of Steel had no heart. It tried to give heart, but it didn't. It missed it. Like, we don't want to see a moping walking around like I'm special. I could be like the next coming Messiah, Jesus Christ, Superman. We don't want that. We really don't. Like, DC is dark enough as it is, and Superman is meant to be that shining light beacon character in the DC universe. That's the reason why he leads the majority of the time. And what we given was just like we were given. Well, you guys know I'm not a fan of the Force Awakens. We were given a Kylo Ren Superman. That's my opinion. But yeah. So it failed on many points for me. But yeah.
Well, I mean, boy, where do you go from there? From my point of view, it's like, well, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. The film is, it's spectacular to look at, but it's so dour and po-faced and serious all the time, and Superman just isn't. As you said, Richie, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I can't even add to that. He's not inspirational at all. And yes, I know that characters should be allowed to be reinvented, and that's cool. That it happens all the time in comic books. It happens all the time in novels. It happens all the time in stories. Characters go on different arcs. They grow. They change, and that all of that kind of thing is fine when you are taking the time to kind of build your character up and then showing that this happens and that happens and therefore they've changed or whatever. But when you've got someone like Superman that everybody kind of knows, and I mean everybody knows Superman, pretty much everybody on the planet knows who Superman is and has some kind of idea. If you said to them, who is Superman, they'd say, oh yeah, probably something about his cape and truth, justice, and the American way, all of those kind of things, all of that sort of imagery and ideas that the character invokes. And it's like Man of Steel said, yeah, no, we're not doing any of that. Instead, we're going to turn Superman into, a whiny little git who is not very likable, is going to spend most of the film moping about his place within the universe. We're going to get Jesus iconography shoved down our throat constantly. And then on top of all of that, as you said, you're going to hand him to a villain that, frankly, on paper, he's completely outmatched against, and yet somehow he's going to get the better of him, well, because he's Superman. And it's just like, that doesn't work for me at all. Some of my favorite Superman comic books are ones where he is not preachy, but certainly kind of is clear about his standing and what he is about. And again, yeah, I get Man of Steel is starting from the beginning, so he's still kind of deciding what is the right thing to do. And he's got two different dads who must be conflicted for you anyway when you've got two dads and two different sets of ideologies to learn from them. But it just, the whole film just didn't work. It just didn't work at all. I mean, we won't even get into the bloody controversy because, again, then we'll have a bunch of rabid DC fans after us, but we won't get into the controversy of what he did at the end of the film, or the amount of collateral damage that they racked up needlessly at the end of the movie, and just, yeah, all of that stuff we'll just have to skim over before we have the DC posse ride into our doors with torches and pitchforks. Alvin, do you have anything positive to say about Man of Steel?
Well, I did like the beginning. When I saw the movie, and at the beginning with Jor-El, and he jumped onto that bird and all that business, that pterodactyl-looking thing, all that Krypton stuff was pretty cool. And the introduction of the Codex, and no one on Krypton is born of natural birth. Everyone's kind of generated at this kind of birthing room and all that kind of business. I thought that was all really interesting stuff. I thought they were going to do something really interesting with that concept. And then the rest of the film happened, and then it wasn't that interesting. The only other bits I really enjoyed, the world building machine, when Superman smashes through that. It's not that I enjoyed the bit, but there was a subliminal message in there where you can see Christopher Reeve's face for a second. And I remember seeing that moment in the cinema and thinking of the original Superman movies and how much better they were than this. And then those are the only positive points for me for that film. I mean, apart from the fact that it is filmed in a brilliant kind of way, but other than that, no. I watched it earlier this year and I was just like, everything you guys have said has literally been on point. It's I don't even need to say anything else really apart from that.
Hold on, Alvin. So what? They literally put Christopher Reeve's face in it. What, CGI? Or you just
Yeah. Did you not notice that?
Dude, did you not see?
If you go online and look at the GIF.
Hear that I've never watched the film properly.
All right. Well, if you go online, and you can even search for a GIF, and you'll see it, and it's Henry Cavill. He's got his face tilted upwards. It's when he's generating all his power so he can smash through it. While that's happening, his face kind of warps a little bit, and you'll see it change to Christopher Reeve for a second, and then change back. And because when I was watching it in cinema, I didn't notice it, and then I just started thinking about those old films for some reason. And then when I went online and saw articles saying, "Oh, Christopher Reeve is in the film for a second," I was like, "No wonder I thought of those bloody films." You know what I mean? So yeah, but check out that GIF, everyone, if you can find it online. If you're on the film,
we're on live. What they should have just done? You know what they did with Laurence Olivier for Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow? They should have just done that.
I didn't even know.
They should have just.
I didn't even know Laurence Olivier was in it.
Yeah, neither did I, actually.
Oh, so Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. But what you say? They should have just CGI'd Christopher Reeve's face on Henry Cavill's body. Fuck it.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's so it's fair to say Man of Steel fell a bit flat with all three of us. It was pretty successful. It was a modest success for Warner Brothers at the box office. It did reasonably well. It didn't go down so well with the critics, which is kind of a theme that's going to be coming up with some of the other films we're going to talk about. It didn't go down so well with them, but it was, a moderate success. And what they did within the movie was add a few little Easter eggs and things like that for the fans to kind of hint that they were going to include some other characters in future movies. And sure enough, we found out later on that the plan was for them to actually expand and build a cinematic universe full of the DC characters and interconnecting films and so on. So after Batman v Superman, after Man of Steel, we've got Batman v Superman, which is the next movie we're going to talk about. Now, this is a movie that evokes a lot of strong emotions. It is very, very divisive, to say the least. I spent last night watching the Ultimate Edition, or Extended Edition, or whatever it is they want to call it. I don't know. Which is about 3 hours long, just shy of 3 hours, and adds some scenes to the theatrical cut of the film, because the theatrical cut of the film was cut to about 2 hours and 30 minutes by Warner Brothers executives, partly because they felt the film was too long, and partly because they felt certain things just didn't work. I watched the Ultimate Edition, as said, and it made no difference to me whatsoever in terms of A, my opinion of the film, B, my understanding of the film, and C, the overall flow and experience of it. I think that Batman v Superman is quite possibly the worst film that I've seen this year. I was trying to think of other examples of things that I've seen, personally seen this year, and really I couldn't come up with much else that I've actually seen that I thought, yeah, was worse than that. Gents, I imagine this one is going to be nasty, so pull your gloves off and do your worst, man. Alvin, Batman v Superman, what did you make of the movie when you saw it?
When I actually saw the Ultimate Cut or the theatrical edition?
Well, you can go with the theatrical edition first, and then.
Okay. Well, the theatrical, unfortunately for me, like I could tell what was going to happen in the entire movie, so it was just me sat in a cinema, waiting for things to happen and waiting for a fight to kick off. Like I knew that at some point Lex was going to control Superman somehow. I didn't think it would be his mum that it would use to control him, but I knew he was going to control him some way in order for him to fight Batman. I knew that Lex was going to be behind whatever scheme was going on, all that. It was all just obvious, so it was just me sat in the cinema for 2.5 hours waiting. And it was boring mostly, apart from a few bits of good action. And obviously when Batman comes in and kicks some ass in a warehouse, wicked. There's some little good bits in there, but it's few and far between. It's almost like they save all the action to the very end, and then they just did like 45 minutes of just like punching, kicking, slashing, whatever, and all. They just saved pretty much all of the action till the end. It wasn't a smart thing to do, because it almost becomes too much. Although those action scenes are where the film comes alive and stops being boring.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with anything you've said there, really, except from my point of view, like a lot of the action scenes were boring, frankly, apart from, let's say, the Batman warehouse scene. That one was really good. But again, watching it last night, I was just like, Jesus Christ, you just get on with it. There's just so much exposition. I mean, I know that they tried to set the groundwork down for this expanded universe, and so there's a lot of things they want to get on with, but you don't do that at the expense of basic storytelling and keeping people interested in the plot of your movie, because this is ultimately just a movie. It's not a 3.5-hour commercial for what you're going to do. It is a movie, so you need to entertain people and tell them what this character's story is, where they start, what they go through in the middle, and how it all ends up. And instead, as I said, you get a 3-hour commercial for what they're planning to do with the DC universe. It's terrible. It's terrible. There's no humor. It's just dour as hell. None of the characters are really that charismatic. Say, apart from Batman. Batman's interpretation by Ben Affleck was really enjoyable for me. And Wonder Woman, I think Gal Gadot did really well, given how limited she is as an actor. She actually did quite well with what she did. In fact, she did really well. but aside from that, it just, oh god, it's awful. Rich, save me, man, save me before I start cursing,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Am I still here? You guys still hear me?
Yep, can
Yep.
still hear you, bro.
Okay, cool. Can you still hear me now?
Yep,
No, can you hear me?
yep, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay, cool. All right. Um, you know what? I mean, I was the same as Alvin. Like, I remember sitting in the cinema and saying, "Okay, cool, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen." And Jay, me and you saw the film in the cinema together with three of our other friends. And I just remember people around us, and I've never experienced this before, but I remember people sitting behind us, beside us, in front of us, and I remember people just scratching their heads, going like, "What's going on?" Like you heard people saying that, like, "What the fuck is this? Like, what's happening?" Blah blah blah. It was just put together so poorly. It was actually upsetting, like generally upsetting. That's the first thing. When they started talking about this, special edition cut, I remember I went to you. I was like, oh my god, like special edition, like maybe because it's Zack Snyder, we're gonna get a bit more of like some rocking. And I remember you said to me like, nah, it's just gonna be some more exposition to try and expand on the plot. I was like, fuck it, I'm not buying that. So unlike you suckers, I didn't sit down and watch the 3 hour cut. What I did is that when I first heard that, I just went onto YouTube and watched the and watched the clips there. And you know what? Lo and behold, guess what? They made no fucking difference. Yeah. So there was that. Um, the film itself, you know what it is. Now, like we said before, this film boils down ultimately to what it says in the title: Batman versus Superman. Essentially, you could compare it to, let's say, like one of those really really bad kung fu flicks, where like from the 70s, where the kung fu flick is like an hour and a half, and you literally have to watch through like really really bad dubbing and like really really like lackluster type of story until you see the hero and the villain fight at the end, and the choreography is just balls to the wall amazing, and then that makes it that makes the journey worthwhile. Now, by the time it comes to Batman versus Superman, you've got these two powerhouses that have only just been. I mean, Batman's only just been introduced into this film anyway, and Man of Steel, like you said, like the thing that makes Superman a good thing is that he's not just Superman. He's Clark Kent. We haven't even got that Clark Kent. So already, like, we're just kind of just like we haven't even got to understand how these characters, are operating. Now, when you go to the original source of The Dark Knight Strikes Back, what makes that fight between Batman and Superman amazing is the internal monologue. Now, because we know how these characters or what type of what these characters are like I said, with each of these characters that have been put on screen, we've always had some form of interpretation of them, of how they're being portrayed. So, for example, Michael Keaton, you've got Batman, and he plays crazy Bruce Wayne Batman. That was his shtick. Then you've got like Christian Bale. I just call him, because I'm not a fan of his. I'm just calling him Husky Voice Batman. Yeah. Then you've got Adam West, who's campy Batman, who's like super smart, intelligent, but set in the '60s. Psychedelic. Peace, love, and all of that stuff. And but with the Dark Knight Strikes Back, like you've got this build up of like the toll of being Batman, what it's done to Bruce Wayne, and how he's become this gruff guy, and the reason why he's so angry and does what he does. And on the other hand, you've got Superman, and he's fighting against he's fighting against what he truly believes in, because Lex Luthor has finally got the upper hand on him. So you've got this build up of the reason why these guys are like how they are. They even though you might not see it, they've give you enough backstory to show you or to tell you or explain to you what's happened in the years that have gone by. So when it comes to the internal monologue, when they're fighting, and then you can hear Batman saying like, yeah, I just cracked the rib. Oh, that felt fucking amazing. Like he's loving it. Like he's going out like one of those soldiers who's ready, who's saying this is a good day to die and I'm going to Valhalla. When you get that in this film, you don't feel anything, and it's the same thing. It's the same problem that you had with Man of Steel. You can't identify with these characters. Like they just look pretty on screen. So come by the time when it comes to that fight scene, it's just like you don't care. That's first and foremost. Second thing, you know that Batman's not going to kill Superman. Superman's is not going to kill Batman. So you know how that fight's going to end up. It's going to be like one of those fucking comic book covers from the 70s. Remember, Jay, we're always making fun of him, where what happens on the front cover isn't what happens inside the comic book, where there's like, oh my God, Benjamin, you've killed Reed Richards, like, what are we gonna do? And there's like, well, he asked for it. And then you read the inside of the magazine, and you find out that Magneto has been defeated by wooden guns. Like, so many different types of stories. Like, it's just bullshit, you know? So the only piece of, like, action that really, really got me or kept me entertained throughout the film, because I thought the plot was just pants, was the warehouse fight with Batman against the goons. And the thing is, you've got, you give or take, like the trailer itself, and like we've discussed already, the fight scene in the warehouse, you give or take see the whole thing in the trailer anyway. And so, like, you know, it was just blur. Wonder Woman was probably the only good thing in it for me, who kind of, I wouldn't even say saved it, because Batman vs Superman, I wouldn't even try and watch it now. But she was entertaining, and she was literally a breath of fresh air. Everybody else was just like, yeah. Lois Lane, listen, like that was a waste of a character. Margot Kidder so far, and even Terry Hatcher, have been amazing Lois Lanes, like very, very strong female characters. This Lois Lane is just like, what did she do? She gets in a bath and Clark jumps in with her, and then she gets trapped underneath some rocks. She don't do shit for the film, man. Like, she doesn't do anything. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg. It is Jesse Eisenberg that plays him, right? Is it Jesse?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I get Jesse Eisenberg and Michael Cera. I get them mixed up. I reckon they're from the same gene pool thing that Lex Luthor actually uses in Man of Steel to clone to clone Doomsday. Because Michael Cera and Jesse Eisenberg, I think they went to the same acting school. But it's just another film that just looks good. But like I said, it's the Zack Snyder way. That's it. Like, it doesn't bring it brings nothing to me, man. Like, my heart is beating right now. I want to go out and punch somebody in the face. Like, thinking about this film. But I don't know. Yeah, that's me. I'm sure I could say loads more, but I know we're on a time limit. Anybody who wants me, you know, he wants to know some more, just hit me up, man. Like, I'll fucking record the 4-hour monologue about why I don't like Batman vs Superman. But yeah, let me calm down. Woosa. Yeah, Jay, you can go. Whoever's turn it is to go, man. You can go, man.
Yeah, take a deep breath. I mean, as you said, you covered the gamut there again, really, and it's like, I mean, it's the plot as well. The plot is so stupid and boneheaded. I don't know what movie Jesse Eisenberg is in, because he's in a different movie to everybody else with that performance. Oh god, and as I said, the Ultimate Edition just adds nothing. All it does is gives you loads more exposition, and that's it. Like, it really does nothing for the characters. Superman is an absolute dick in this film. He's a dick. That's what he is. And it's like, why are we supposed to care? What, just because he's Superman, we're going to care that Superman and Batman are fighting? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, we've already had like crappy films with beloved superheroes in them that nobody gives a shit about, and they don't give a shit because the film is crap. So you can't just get away with shoehorning people into movies and hope that everybody likes it because, hey, it's this guy, everybody loves this guy, right? No, you kind of have to give them the story. But anyway, we've spent enough time on Batman v Superman, and that film really pisses me off. So let's move on. So we're back at Suicide Squad. Gents, couple things that I wanted to get from you, really. One, what do you think about the film's place within the DCEU? We've kind of covered what we thought of the movie, but I was thinking more in terms of from a storytelling point of view. Two, would you be excited to see a Suicide Squad sequel? And three, who would you want in the sequel? Doesn't have to be long answers, so just keep it brief, but just to kind of give a sense of where that film places itself within what Warner Brothers are doing. Who wants to go first? Rich, you want to go?
Yeah, cool. Suicide Squad. Okay, you know what? Would I go and see a sequel? I think I would. I would go and see a sequel to it. You know what it is. You know, the Suicide Squad, even though it's meant to be like, you know, like the summer blockbuster film, I put it in the same league as the Expendables film, whereas like you know what you're getting, like, you know, like it's like you're not getting like grade A grade A, like prime beef. You're not getting that prime steak. You're getting decent steak. Like you're getting taste the difference from like Sainsbury's, or maybe just a bit lower, and it's good. It's good enough to cook and eat. So I think that works. So that's why, like, when I came out of the film and I saw the flaws that it had, why I wasn't upset, because they're not meant to be like the forerunners of the DC universe. So I'll give it a blight, and I'll give it a pass, and you can tell that in the amount of stars that it has. I mean, like, obviously it has like Will Smith in it, and he's probably the biggest star. Jared Leto, depending on who you are, you can consider him like a major star. I mean, like, I know some people that will listen to his music that he makes of 30 Seconds to Mars, but won't see his films, and vice versa. So he's a bit 50-50. It's only because he's playing the Joker that he got a bit of star billing, because the Joker is such a beloved villain, or a beloved character. And then Margot Robbie, I mean, obviously with her playing Harley Quinn, who's like, extremely like, popular at the moment. Well, not at the moment, but like for quite some time now. That kind of helped propel the film as well. But it still could have been a film that didn't actually have any A-listers in it, and it still would have done, performed the job just as well for me personally. So I would say sequel, because I think what you get in the packet, even though they kind of lied with the marketing, you still get the feeling that I haven't been duped too much. Let's say compared to Man of Steel or Batman versus Superman, where they claim to give you this this clash of the titans. Nah, you're chatting shit, you're lying. Yeah. Where it sits in the DC universe, I personally think that they actually could have released this film first, or at least, let's say, after, let's say, like Man of Steel. I think that where it sits, they really could have just used this just to open up that the metahumans in the world, and then brought in everything else, and maybe even still keep like the cameos, like kept the cameo of Superman, of Batman in it, kept the cameo of Flash in it, mentioned Superman in it, but obviously like maybe would have changed the story of like he doesn't die, because I would have said it before Batman versus Superman, and I think that would have really just kept fans just salivating and be like, oh yeah, like this is amazing. And then you know what I would have done? And then at the end, I would have had like a cameo by Bruce Wayne talking to Amanda Waller. Spoiler if anybody hasn't seen it. And then at the end, I know they're trying to say that they really don't want to be like Marvel. What I would have done then is then attach the Justice League teaser trailer that they released at San Diego Comic-Con at the end of Suicide Squad, to really get people riled up and really get people excited. Because by the time with that trailer released, and by the time you watch Suicide Squad and you see the cameos in it, you're kind of just like, meh, like, I know what's coming. I mean, the best example I've ever seen was when I watched The Matrix Reloaded, and you stay past the credits, and it shows the trailer for The Matrix Revolutions, which ended up being a shit film anyway, but it was just like, wow, like, this is something to look forward to. They didn't release that trailer until the film itself was released. It's the same thing for Back to the Future 2. I remember that I think at the end of Back to the Future 2, they gave the trailer at the end of the film for Back to the Future Part 3. Like, keep the audience engaged, like, try attack us on all fronts to make us want to invest in this thing. Don't just start throwing stuff out just because you think we're going to follow. Because, like, now, the buzz is gone. The buzz is completely gone. Like, we've got these trailers for, like, the Netflix Marvel TV series happening. Although they might not be, like, stupidly linked to, like, the TV, to, like, the films. But they still are. They still keep us invested in this universe. So they release that specific points. Whereas like with DC, I think they're crapping themselves, and they're just chucking everything at us, in one go. And at that point, when you keep on doing that and they keep on releasing nonsense, people are just going to zone out. That's my opinion. But the Suicide film as a standalone, and where it sits in the DC expanded universe, I think it sits pretty well, and it sits a lot stronger and a lot tighter than the two main films that they've released, in which they're using their money makers, or 2/3 of like the Holy Trinity, as they're called. So that's me, and I've spoken so much I got cramp in my foot. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So yeah, that's. Did I answer the questions? 'Cause I kind of went off on a tangent.
Yeah,
okay,
that's all right. We know how you roll, man. Yeah, no, that's cool. Alvin, so what did you think about where the position of the film was, and kind of where they're going with it, and is it a good place to kind of maybe, because I've heard this phrase bandied around about the DCEU a little bit, course correction. So was it a good film to do course correction for them to kind of steer the universe in in a different direction and away from the stinking, steaming pile of dung that is behind it? Or does it get bogged down in that? And what character would you want to see in a sequel if you were to go and see one?
Yeah, I mean, well, when it kicked off, the whole kind of like mention of Superman's dead and all that kind of business, and that guy holding a T-shirt with the Superman logo and then turn it around, it says "Remember" or something like that on the back. I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. You know what I mean? A world without Superman, so therefore they need to create this team that can do things, that can handle kind of threats and all that kind of stuff. So I think it kind of went in quite nicely. But it's like a nice little hub, like I describe it as, because like you said, the Batman cameo, they could have had other cameos from, well, they did have one other cameo from a different hero, the Flash, but they could have done a bit more of that, because for each of the different villains, but they probably didn't have the time to. But no, it could be, if they did a sequel, it could be an interesting way to kind of get more villains in there and get their backstories in and get what heroes those roles are connected to and all that kind of thing. I don't know. It's in a weird position, because it can be its own thing, but it's also technically kind of standalone. You don't have to have seen Batman v Superman to really know what's going on. Or Man of Steel. All you need to know is that Batman's dead and Amanda Waller tells you that. Superman's dead and Amanda Waller tells you that, and then that's it. So I'm not sure as to how much I'd like either this one or a sequel to kind of really connect out wider to a wider kind of story involving the rest of the DCEU. I'm not sure. In terms of characters, I'd like to see for the next one, if they do a next one, I'd want King Shark in there to replace Killer Croc. And apart from that, I don't know who else I'd want to see. Really, it's weird. I mean, they have a choice as to whether they want to go for villains that people don't know, or kind of like more kind of obvious choices from maybe perhaps Batman's Rogues Gallery, perhaps, or something of the sort like that, and put those characters in there.
Cool. Well, for my character, I know who I want. I want Bronze Tiger. Why? Because he's a black man with a black headband, bitch. That's why.
He's a black man over what?
With a black headband. Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of covered it really. In terms of where the film is positioned, I think it's positioned quite nicely in the sense that it's standalone enough for it to be kind of its own thing, but there's still enough connective tissue in terms of intersecting characters and plots for it to still feel like part of a wider universe. Whether I'd go to see a sequel or not depends on whether Warner Brothers decide they're going to cut another version of the film behind their filmmaker's back, as they usually do. For those who don't know, there was a story that broke earlier in the week in the Hollywood Reporter that was saying that there are actually two versions of this film. There was an original version by the director David Ayer, which was supposed to be a bit darker and a bit grittier than the one that we got in the cinema. Apparently Warner execs weren't too comfortable with what they were seeing and decided that they were going to get somebody in who could lighten the tone. So the rumor is that the film was passed on to the same company who made the Suicide Squad trailers, called the Trailer Park, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And they were the ones who actually cut this theatrical film together. Whether we're going to get like an ultimate edition like Batman v Superman, I don't know. I doubt it, because I don't think there's... It's just not the train wreck that Batman v Superman was, so I don't think there's necessarily any need to do that to kind of correct the course with that. But yeah, one thing that Warner Brothers needs to do is to have a little bit of faith in their filmmakers, because they seem to be getting cold feet every time, and as a result of it, it ends up with a movie that's a mess. We've seen the evidence of that from Batman v Superman, and it's like they haven't learned their lesson, so they've gone meddling again in Suicide Squad, and we've got a film that's quite divisive again, and it's like, just let the filmmaker do their thing, and then just trust their vision, and hopefully what they'll come out with on the other end will be something that you'll feel confident about. So Warner's executives, I'm talking directly to you, stop pissing about. Okay. So from there we have Wonder Woman, which is coming next year. We've kind of talked a lot. I don't think we necessarily need to go into Wonder Woman too much because we talked a lot about that in the previous podcast. So people watching, if you do want to know what we think of Wonder Woman and what we thought of the trailer and what we think of where that's going, you can kind of click onto the previous podcast episode 4. We discussed that in detail there, and we were pretty clear about where we thought it was going. But just in terms of whether you're excited or not for it, or you're hopeful for it, on the basis of what we've seen so far, what do you think, guys? Alv, are you excited for Wonder Woman? Are you looking forward to it? You have reservations now? Where do you stand with it?
I'm not excited, but I am looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. It does look actiony, and hopefully it will be I wouldn't say more generic, but more kind of just familiar with like what we expect from these kind of films, having a beginning, middle, and end, and a decent story, and actually some color in the film would be nice. And it looks like there may be all of those things, and also there's hot Amazonians as well, so I'm down with that. So yeah, it looks decent, man. Like I just hope it is more in tune with what the audience want, because they've not been in tune with this at all, if you ask me. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I hear you about the film. Let's please get rid of that washed out palette as well that they keep using for all of these films. It just does no justice to the costumes at all. Rich, Wonder Woman, excited, kind of have some trepidation or some doubts? Where do you stand on it?
No, stupidly excited. Like, just for the simple fact that, like I said, we've never really seen Wonder Woman on screen. Well, we've never seen Wonder Woman as a movie, unless it's been a TV movie or a TV series. And I'm just really excited, like, to just have like a strong female character, like her. Let's put it this way: if they were gonna make a superhero film female wise, like on screen, then you've got to use the original. So that's a Wonder Woman's a no-brainer. That's first and foremost. I'm really excited about how she's going to be portrayed, especially in a period when women rarely aren't seen as equal to men. I mean, they do that whole little trailer thing, that joke in the trailer, when Wonder Woman or Diana Prince, whoever you want to call her, finds out that Steve Trevor has a secretary. And back then, secretaries were always known. Well, from what I know, history-wise, were always women. It was so it'll be a good little eye-opener, especially knowing that it's set in the past and how things will change from that point onwards. The main reason why I'm really excited about it is because I'm hoping that this is going to be the link, as in for the rest of the DC universe, to expand a bit more. Like I've already told you, I genuinely think this is going to be their Captain America. So you've got like all these superheroes in the Marvel universe, battling their villains, and ultimately all heading towards this whole thing where they're going to fight against Loki, who has the Tesseract in the Avengers. But then the thing about Captain America is that Captain America essentially was almost like the lost piece of the puzzle that linked everything together. And I remember watching the trailer for Wonder Woman and them covering the mother box and then seeing Nazis, and I'm sure that in the DC universe at some point the Nazis.
That's not Nazis, bro.
Who were they?
It was World War One, so it was the Kaiser's forces. I can't remember what one now. But
okay.
Yeah, not the Nazis.
The quote-unquote bad people.
You're going to get peasants all over you if you start saying things like that.
Yeah. Sorry. So you know what? In fact, Jay, you're right. So I'm just gonna put it out there and listen. If I've offended any Nazis out there, apologies, man. But I like that thing, because the thing I'm hoping that as I was saying, like that Wonder Woman would be their version of Captain America and link everything with the mother box and whoever the bad guys are, and I'm sure they in some way or another they're going to be tied to, let's say, maybe trying to bring Darkseid to this world. That will give it some form of focus for the DC universe, because right now that's the thing. I think that's the main thing that's missing from the DC expanded universe. There's no big bad for anybody to be aiming at. and don't get me wrong, and I'm gonna keep on comparing them to Marvel because Marvel have done a good job. Don't get me wrong, with the whole Marvel thing, it wasn't until a few good films in that they started bringing in this big bad, right? And then you got exposed to the real big bad at the end of Avengers. But everybody had their own standalone film. Now with the DC universe, you've got Man of Steel, and before they've even done a Man of Steel sequel, you've got Batman versus Superman. So already you're bringing in your heavy hitters, and then straight from there you're bringing in like another heavy hitter, and then a big group team film. So you're like they're skipping out quite a lot of, I think, character and universe build up, which I think it needs. So hopefully, with the way how Wonder Woman's going to be set up, hopefully that's going to fill in a lot of the blanks and push things open. And I think that's a bit ironic as well, because I think if you think about it, they always say like if you need a job done properly, let a woman do it. Then I think the Wonder Woman's the person that, or the character or the film that's going to pull it off, and maybe take him to the right direction. So yeah, in a nutshell, I'm very excited.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, looking forward to it too. Patty Jenkins is a really good director. The person in charge of that, she was supposed to do For the Dark World, and I wish she did do it, to be honest. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, in spite of all the missteps that Warner Brothers have made with the DCEU so far. I feel very comfortable. As I mentioned in the previous podcast episode, I wasn't that convinced by Gal Gadot at all when she was announced as Wonder Woman, but she's really sold me on the character. The trailer looks fantastic, so yep, fingers crossed everything's going to work out with that.
Oh, sorry. One more thing, sorry. You know what else I'm really excited about the Wonder Woman film? That fucking song. Just play that song. Play that Wonder Woman song. Wow. I don't care.
Drums kick in.
I don't care. What's that?
When the drums kick in and all that, and that guitar.
Yeah. You know what song I'm talking about? That song. Everybody knows that song. I don't care what scene it is, what scene it is in the film. I don't care if it's a love scene, if it's an emotional scene, if it's the end, it's the beginning. Play that fucking song, and I'll be happy. That's it, man. Mm-hmm. That song is epic, man. So that's the last thing I'll say about the Wonder Woman film.
Okay, cool. Well, we've only got a brief bit of time left, lads, so let's crack on with these because we've still got a few films to cover. So we've got the... sorry, just let me have a look at my list here. Yeah, so we've got Justice League, which is due on November the 17th. Justice League, what do you think about Justice League? Excited or not? And really keep it brief, Richard.
Yeah, call me out like that. Am I excited for it? Yes. Do I have a lot of faith in it? Unfortunately not, because number one, Zack Snyder's directing it, and number two, they're going to be bringing in quite a few characters who are larger than life characters in themselves anyway. I mean, these aren't like side bit characters, These are characters or comic book characters that have their own comic book. Flash has his own comic book. Cyborg has his own comic book. Aquaman has his own comic book. These are characters that haven't even yet been fully introduced for us to get to know them by themselves, and they're going to be put into this, into this film as a group. I think that's a lot of work to do. And like I said, with somebody like Zack Snyder directing it, can it be pulled off? I don't think so. But stranger things have happened. Let's put it that way. So how's that for brief? I think that's pretty fucking brief. I think that was pretty good for me.
Shut up. Yeah, for me, nah, I'm kind of like, it doesn't look bad. Again, it wasn't even really a trailer we got. It was more just kind of teaser footage, I guess. The footage looks okay. Aquaman looks tops in it. The Flash looks alright. But I'm very reticent about it because of, as you said, because of Zack Snyder. Really sorry, but I think I've really lost faith in anything he's involved in now. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with Justice League. Alvin, you excited?
No, I'm not excited. I'm gonna go see it, obviously. Yes, it looks visually it looks decent, but tone for me, the tone is a bit like they've jumped. Kind of, it's like they've tried to match Marvel with the tone almost. That's how it feels like to me. I wish you can keep your darkness, and you can have humor with darkness, but you don't have to jump in completely into the light. You know what I mean? And also almost make it PG, for example. But I don't know. It was weird for me tonally. It was just odd, but it looks decent at least. So no, I'm not excited, but yeah, I'm gonna go see it.
Cool. Fair enough. All right, we've got.
Can I just say something quickly about what Alvin? You see what you just said about that whole line about keep the darkness but jump into the light. That was actually really beautiful, and I really believe that. I think you should have actually said it like how Bane says it in in the Dark Knight Rises. Just jump into the
light. You don't have to do too much humor.
Make it PG.
Marvel did it better.
Oh my goodness! So from this point, from Justice League, there's a number of films that have been slated for release. Obviously, because it's way off in the future, they're still at pre-production stage, so there's not really that much to say. Other than Flash, we have a director for. We have Rick Famuyiwa. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I hope it is. If I butchered your name, I'm sorry, brother. That's my bad. But he's the guy. Most recently, he did the movie Dope. That me and Richard and I had seen it quite recently, and we're discussing that. But he's the person who's going to be directing The Flash, and then obviously we have Ezra Miller in the lead role for that, and they're still sort of at casting stages with that. Aquaman comes after that on July the 27th, 2018. You have James Wan in place for that, the guy who's behind the Saw franchise, did the last Fast and Furious movie. Very well known, very respected in Hollywood, and quite interesting director from a visual point of view as well, and the kind of visuals he can deliver. So he's an interesting choice. October the 5th, 2018 is an untitled movie. I think everybody kind of knows by now it's going to be The Batman, but they haven't officially confirmed anything yet, so we don't know about that. After that, April 5th, 2019 is Shazam. That is a whole can of worms right there, because what they're doing with Shazam, I don't know if you guys know this, but Shazam has actually been moved off of the production slate at Warner Brothers. Wow, it's actually been moved over to New Line Productions. Now, New Line obviously are owned by Warner Brothers. But the fact that Warner Brothers have moved it away from their main production, I don't know what that says about what their plans are for the character and for the movie. New Line is definitely a lot smaller scale than Warner Brothers, a lot more smaller scale. So yeah, make of that what you will. We can speculate away about that. June 14th of that year, we have Justice League Part 2, so I guess whatever happens in Part 1, they're going to be following on from that. November the 1st, 2019, there is an untitled film that we have no title for as yet. Any guesses as to what that might be? Yep, probably Man of Steel 2. We did get an announcement that they are going into pre-production on Man of Steel 2. So the likelihood is it probably is going to be a Man of Steel sequel. Hopefully by then, please, if there is a God in heaven, please let Zack Snyder not be involved in this one. Thank you very much. And April the 3rd, 2020 is when we get a Cyborg movie. And then rounding it up for this point is June 19th, 2020 is when we have a Green Lantern Corps movie. So guys, out of these remaining movies, is there any one that sticks out to you for any reason? And what is that reason, if there is one?
The Shazam movie.
Cool. Yeah. Why Shazam?
I mean, to move it away would it could work. I mean, you could make it like a really, really like PG friendly type of film for kids. And it kind of stands out because I think that in another alternate reality, I'm like that. So like, let's say like we're not the Earth 616, like let's say we're Earth like 741, But in another reality, the Shazam movie is actually a reboot of Kazam, starring Shaquille O'Neal. That's the shit I want to see right there, bro. That's so,
Ooh,
this
big
that shit
Shaq,
right
baby,
there.
big Shaq.
That shit right there. Big Shaq, baby, doing the Harlem Shuffle in that. Yeah, no, Shazam, because I think the thing about Shazam is that obviously the whole history behind it, and how originally when the character was created and how they went to war with DC and everything, and how DC basically ended up shafting the company that owns Shazam and then buying the character of Shazam. So I'd really like to see where he sits in the film anyway, because he is that the boy who becomes a superhero, who becomes a man. So I'd like to see how that's going to be dealt with. Is it going to be dealt with, CGI wise? Are they generally going to have like a little kid playing the boy, and then then a man playing the Shazam? And then also there's always this rumor of like The Rock playing Black Adam. Is Black Adam going to be a part of this? I don't know. I'd like to maybe the reason the other thing I'm excited about it for is because maybe this might be an open to a slightly smaller DC side side to the universe. Whereas like even though the Marvel DC the Marvel TV shows are part of like the Marvel universe, they're still very much contained in their own little story. So maybe that's what I'd like to see happen with Shazam. So that's why I'm excited about that. And I think he's never really been shown the props he deserves, because he was generally a better character than Superman in the beginning, and then like I said, got shafted. So that's why I'm excited about that.
Cool. Alvin, any one of them floating boat?
I'm not. I mean, the Flash, like the show's been doing really well. So like, if they don't pull off this film, it'll just be like, what the fuck? It'll be like, what the hell? You're telling me you can do this all on TV and make this wicked show and this wicked character and make Flash really interesting? We can't do that in the film. But the one that I'm kind of, it's not even that. It's hard because I'm not like looking forward to any of these. It's like I'll go and see them, but I'm not like super excited. But I think the most interesting one on the list for me will either really be the Batman one, because it's fucking Batman, innit? Or Green Lantern Corps, merely because I hope that they learn their freaking lesson and understand that when you do Green Lantern, he's a space policeman. Just do fucking space police. This time around, have good CGI. Don't CGI the suit. Fucking have all the various different lanterns in there. If you want to throw in fucking what's his name? If you want to throw in any of the other lanterns that've been, apart from Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner, throw them all in. I don't care. But make the film fucking good. Make it all set in space. Have it be fucking cool. Kind of like in a similar fashion to the way they did Nova Corps in Guardians. Just focus on that shit. Focus on that. Don't have him coming back to Earth and fucking making springs to fucking fly a tank into the air or whatever. Don't do that shit. Have him fight aliens and have the aliens be good. Don't have it be shit CGI like it was in the previous one. But yeah, Green Lantern Corps looks like it could be interesting if you stick to the fucking sci-fi and have it be cosmic. You know what I mean? That's what I've got to do. Stick to the space shit and have cool space shit.
Yeah.
Cool. Fair enough. Good points made. For me, the one that stands out is Cyborg, because I'm looking at that and I'm like,
why?
Yeah, why Cyborg? I mean, I'm sorry if I'm offending any Cyborg fans here. I should explain. Cyborg is not really a character I've ever kind of connected with in any way. Even when I was reading sort of like Young Justice and Teen Titans comics. Way back when I was young, I never really got Cyborg, and it was hard for me to kind of feel any emotional connection with the character of Victor Stone.
Hold on for a second. No, so carry on.
What are you doing, man? Scratching your nuts?
I think he's disappeared on us for a sec.
Yeah. Victor Stone is not a character I really kind of connected with in any way, and he just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb amongst this list of films, and it's way off in 2020. So I guess that's why they've kind of gone with Justice League and tried to put him in Justice League now, so everybody kind of gets used to the character. But still, it's a long way off until the movie actually until he gets his standalone movie. I guess if he's popular with audiences, then they can always move the production slate up. But they don't seem to have anybody in place apart from Ray Fisher, the guy who's playing him, as far as we know, anyway. And yeah, it just kind of seems like an odd choice. Like, I'm not even sure they're going to go ahead with that movie, quite frankly. I said, I guess a lot will depend on how audiences respond to him in the Justice League. But yeah, weird one, that one. So I don't know. But anyway, that is the DCEU lineup, and that's what we can expect coming forward. So, guys, we're gonna have to wrap it up because we're running out of time rapidly here. We've actually done quite well tonight. So, for those of you who are watching, thanks for watching with us. If you're watching this later on YouTube, then I hope you enjoyed it. Lads, let's quickly. Oh, actually, before we go, if you don't mind, for 5 minutes, let's quickly do some questions because we've had a couple. So there was one question that we had a couple of weeks ago, and it was from Andrew. Andrew, what's up if you're watching? He was asking about animation and cartoons and politics, and in particular, he was referencing He-Man in that. What do you think about the idea that do cartoons reflect politics in any way that you guys have noticed or has stood out to you? I can think of a couple of examples quickly off the top of my head that do. But was there anything for you guys that you think is overtly political or has like kind of political undertones to it? Wow. Alf, do you want to go?
That's a pretty deep question. Like, I've never thought about it like that way before. I can think of some I can think at least one cartoon that deals with like kind of social issues, but social things and that. But I was just thinking, just popped into my head, just was like G.I. Joe, because it's pro army. So, you know what I mean? So that's kind of connected to politics in a way, because you think of normally someone who's pro-army normally to be quite conservative, but that's the only thing that kind of comes to mind really, is G.I. Joe really in regards to that. I can't really think of anything else politically that I've seen, but I'm sure there's some ones on there that probably if you analyse them, they're actually quite political.
Yeah, I think there's plenty that you can kind of list off really if you look at them deeply. I mean, certainly He-Man was always seen as like a political allegory for like Reagan's America, and because it came out around the time that Reagan first came into power, and he ushered in the era of sort of big business, big capitalism, greed is good. The ideas of individualism and the things that are very much at the core of American society now. He-Man was always seen as a reflection of that, really. But yeah, it's a broad question. I think it's one, Andrew, we're probably going to have to do like a good show at. So thanks for giving us that. We'll take some time to think about it. Sorry, Rich, I didn't get your input. Do you have anything you want to add?
I've never really thought about it as much, but I mean, the one that you said, Alvin, about G.I. Joe, I mean, like, it wasn't even just pro-army. I mean, they did it in quite a smart way. I mean, I've never really thought about it just off the top of my head, but they did it really smartly because they made it not just pro-army, but like pro-America.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, it's probably one of the first cartoons where you literally had like all, because like you said, we all know that America is a country based on immigrants, coming in and chasing the American dream. But when you look at G.I. Joe, it had all types of characters in there. You had like Chinese, Indian, Native American, like it was done quite smartly. So that was a really good shout. And obviously, I think probably the most blatant one politically, if this counts, would be Ted Turner's fucking Captain Planet, and just trying to save the planet. That was a cartoon that was, I think, that's set up for to make money off toys and computer games and merchandise and stuff like that. But I think the original thing for it generally was to try and spread the word about being eco-friendly and trying to save the planet, which I think was quite interesting. Especially when I look back at it now, there was never really a cartoon that really just rammed it down just as blatantly as that. Like G.I. Joe did it, but G.I. Joe did it in a smart way. Whereas like with Captain Planet, they generally used to give their whole little infomercial things at the end of the episode as well. So yes, when I look back at it, I think that all these cartoons have been slyly and but slowly, but surely, subliminally influencing us. And so if I go and do some badness, blame it on fucking Transformers. So,
Listen, Transformers will never make you do any kind of badness, mate. Never. If you listen to Optimus Prime's message,
okay.
you will never do anything bad.
Okay, guys, I've got to go. So yeah. So I'll catch you guys on the next podcast. If you guys can give out my handles and everything, I'd be much appreciated.
Cool.
But yeah, but I gotta shoot off. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Rich.
See you later, man.
Cool. Thanks. Okay, see you later, guys. All right, bye.
Okay, everyone. Well, we've got to the point now where I think we can wrap this up and say goodnight to you all. Before I do that, let me quickly also give a couple of shout-outs. First of all, I want to give a big shout-out to two very cool guys who run a podcast called Too Uncool. It's really, really funny. Really funny, but also very informative as well. They cover like a broad range of topics, anything from music to culture, to sort of understanding yourself and kind of self-help podcasts. The most recent one I listened to was a bit about mental health and about poetry and how those kind of things can be intertwined. But as I said, it's all done with a real cool sense of humor about it as well. So Glenn and Massey, big up to them guys. Check out their podcast. You can find it on Stitcher, iTunes. They do have a YouTube channel as well. So you can click on their YouTube channel to get samples of the podcasts that they do. If you want to find them, just look for Too Uncool. So that's number 2 and then Uncool. And then also wanted to give a quick shout out as well to two people who've been kind of following us from the beginning. Big shout out to Desmond. Desmond, big up, man. Thanks for the encouragement. Thanks for the advice. We're going to keep it going as long as you can keep watching us. So thanks a lot for that. And to George as well. George has been loyally following us from the beginning. George, you know who you are, man. Big up yourself. Okay, Alvin, let's wrap it up, dude. Do you want to give a quick plug for anything you're involved in or let people know how they can hit you up?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Twitter. My handle is at BigA85GL. And just quickly, apparently they're casting young Lando Calrissian for the young Han Solo movie.
Oh, nice. Bloody hell, wow. Well, breaking news, folks. Breaking news flash. But no, seriously, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, it makes sense, I guess, obviously, because if you know about the
well, there's pressure, man. Pressure to play those characters.
Yeah, it is big pressure. So big boots to fill. So some young actor's going to get a real chance there. So be interesting. So we'll follow that one very closely. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to follow us, Richard is available on Instagram. He's at Rich Reviews. You can hit us up on Twitter if you like. It's at Wulong Talks. Very easy to find. Just that symbol, Wulong Talks. That's it. Nothing fancy about it. We're also on Instagram at Wulong Talks as well. And we do have a Facebook page as well. You can hit me up. In fact, I run the Facebook account. It's Wulong Talks Podcast on Facebook. So just search for that and you'll find me. Any of you DC fanboys that didn't like what we had to say, stay away from me. I don't need that drama in my life. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's it. Let's wrap this up. So, Alf, if you want to say goodnight, man, say goodnight.
See you later, everyone.
Cool. And it's a good night from me. And on behalf of Richard, I'll say good night as well. He's actually disappeared this week without saying something sexually charged. So, wow, that's a first.
Well done, Rich.
A sign of progress, if ever there was one. Anyway, we'll see you later, folks. Take care of yourselves and have a great evening. Good night.